First of all, we want to thank you for taking the time to actually be here with us and to talk about your experience with us in general. So, yeah, if you want to introduce yourself for a second, talk a little bit about you.
Yeah, so my name's Michael. I am working currently as an integrator and doing a company I love, a job I love, and I'm very happy to be here and share with you, how this helped me to get the role.
Absolutely. Can we get a little bit into details about that, specifically like what was going on in terms of your career and your job search before we actually started working together?
Yeah, so I was in a role very similar to the one I have now. And I love the job. I always told everyone it was probably my favorite job that I've ever had. I just loved the people I was working with. I loved everything I was doing, and I hated the company. It was a
Okay.
very toxic environment, and it was such a struggle because I love what I'm doing, hate where I'm doing it, and
Mm-hmm.
just that stress every day. It was so bad that I would just wake up in the morning with a knot in my stomach, and that would stick around all day long. And I knew that I had to get out of there, but just wasn't sure how. And
Of
because
course.
of the environment that I was in, it kind of messed with my head a little bit in believing in myself and what I was capable of doing.
Mm-hmm.
And that's a hard place to be when you need to go out and pitch yourself and sell yourself to companies. And yet am I any good at anything that I do? Do I have any worth? Do I have any value? So there was
Right. You
sort of
start
this,
doubting yourself on that end as well.
yeah. So there was a mindset element that I had to overcome. And then there's the tactical of finding a job, applying for a job, interviewing
Mm-hmm.
for the job, getting the job kind of
Of
thing.
course. Talking about the process now that you mention it, can you walk us through basically what was some of the results that you saw right away after working with us and some of the wins that you experienced right after getting started?
Yeah, well, there were a couple of things. One was just working with Stephanie and really having her help showcase and make sure I understood the value that I have and that I bring to this. And then getting a place to apply, having like, hey, here's a good place that we think you would like. And I did some research and I'm like, oh my God, this looks like exactly like the type of role that I want and the type of place that I want to work for. And then working with me throughout the process, just everything
Hmm.
from resume and review and role playing, interviews, questions, uh, and just setting me up so much for success
Hmm.
before I even got on the call, and kind of helping me keep perspective throughout the process because there were times that I didn't hear back. Like one time I was told, yeah, you'll hear back Monday. I spoke with the guy, the owner of the company, and this was Friday afternoon.
Okay.
And he was traveling with his family, and he's like, listen, just wanted to check in, let you know you'll hear from me on Monday. And I didn't hear on Monday, didn't hear Tuesday, didn't hear Wednesday. And at that point I'm like, okay, they don't want me. I can sometimes tend to go to doom and gloom probably a little too quickly than is good for my mental health. And Stephanie was very good with like, you don't know what's going on, you don't know that this is what's happening. Well, what it turns out is when he said Monday, he meant a week, Monday, like a full week. So again, I was at the point where I wanted to send an email of, hey, I just want to know what's going on here. I don't want to be wasting my time. That, could have come across with maybe a little of an attitude. And
Hmm.
I didn't.
Absolutely. So it sounds like not only about getting that clarity about the process and understanding what exactly, obviously, first of all, what you bring to the table and what kind of environment you actually wanted to be in, but afterwards, obviously having the patience and the guidance through Stephanie on how to actually cover that follow-up aspect of things as well. And obviously having that mental clarity that, okay, this is usually how it works and this is
Yes.
exactly how you can tackle it, right?
Absolutely. And that happened just every step along the way. There were delays. I think there were multiple interviews, and every one of them got delayed at least 1 to 3 times. And again,
Mm,
I'm I am a big proponent of the quote, in the absence of information, we make up stories. And so I would
absolutely.
always make up the stories of what was going on. And then I would go to Stephanie and she's like, no, you don't do that. And that's probably not the case. And here's probably what's going on. And at the end of the day, it was simply he was so overwhelmed with everything, which is why he needed to hire someone into this role, but until he had someone in this role, he was overwhelmed and, things just had to be shuffled and moved around.
Absolutely. What would you say throughout the whole process, one of the things that maybe surprised you the most?
Well, I think without a doubt, hands down, the number one thing that gave me a leg up to get my foot in the door was the outreach that was done before I even applied.
Okay.
And where, Stephanie was like, hey, you want to consider this person, and here's why. And I guarantee in 3 months, you're going to let me know it's the best hire you ever have. And he did, by the way.
Wow. Wow. That's amazing.
But that really helped set me up just to walk in the door. And then the support throughout to make sure that I wasn't missing anything along the way.
Absolutely, absolutely. I'm so happy to hear that. And I'm curious about, let's say if someone's on the fence on considering actually working with us or going through this experience that has been dealing with similar things that you were dealing with prior to actually working with us, what would you tell them pretty much to actually encourage them to, maybe take that step?
Yeah, I'd say for me, first of all, are you fully committed? And fully committed means, you are in the process to do the work and whatever it takes for as long as it takes. Because again, I wanted this to happen in a weekend, to be honest. I was so desperate of wanting to get out of where, and it was, I think for this, it wound up being like 2 months, maybe a little more. A lot of that,
Hmm.
again, because of the owner, and just traveling
Doesn't.
delays and push things off. Um, so I had to stay in it and I had to do the work. And like doing the work was multiple rounds of interview prep and making sure that I was ready to answer the questions the best way possible so that it was very much uniquely me. It was authentic, it wasn't scripted, and yet it covered the things I needed it to cover. And it takes practice doing that.
Practice and commitment.
Yeah. And so you have to be willing to, like, yes, I want this to happen and I'm going to commit to it and work with and do what I'm told to do.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Wow, Michael, first of all, thank you so much for taking the time to be here with us and, talking about your experience throughout the months that we worked together and everything to actually achieve that result that we were looking for. And well, I cannot be more thankful that, and I'm sure Fernando thinks the same right now. And it's like, this is why we do what we do. And this is basically the North Star when it comes to Stephanie and what she stands for.
Yeah.
So thank you so much for being here with us today.
My
And well,
pleasure.
let's hope that our relationships
Appreciate your
keeps
time.
planning out in the future as well.